Hi everyone, DJ's Aviation here. In today's video I'll be focusing on something a little different than my usual airline analysis and or aircraft analysis. Today we'll be discussing the question, is Perth the perfect hub for Qantas in the future? Some of the things I want to discuss in this video is certainly the new Perth to London route that will be opening up very soon. Also the current Qantas hubs, the expansion plans into Europe, and a whole lot more. I do hope you all enjoy the video, and as always, if you have any opinions on this topic or have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below and I'll do everything in my power to give you guys an answer. So moving forward, Qantas have placed orders for 8 of the Boeing 787-9 aircraft. At the time of this recording, VHZN-A and VHZN-B have already been delivered, with VHZN-C set to be delivered very soon. Obviously, with the introduction of these new aircraft, Qantas had to make plans on where to base them, and of course the routes it would operate on. Essentially, Qantas has the plan to base the first 4 Dreamliners in Melbourne and the next 4 in Brisbane. This is quite an interesting choice in my eyes, especially with Brisbane being preferred over Sydney. However, it's not just down to the capacity or fundamentally the popularity of the airport that gets me thinking, it's the future routes that could make this decision problematic. Last year, Qantas announced a groundbreaking route with their new 787s, this being a non-stop direct service from Perth to London. This finally connects Australia with England directly. The flight is set to begin on March the 24th this year, departing Perth at 6:15 PM and arriving in London at 5:10 AM the following day. So at this current stage, there will be 3 Qantas flights to London. However, that's wrong. Qantas pulled the plug on the QF9, QF10 route, which runs from Melbourne to London with a stopover in Dubai. Obviously for me, this was rather disappointing as it was the first international flight I had boarded, and I always had the hope of flying it again. Qantas also announced it would shift its Sydney to London stopover from Dubai to Singapore. With Qantas adding the A380 on the Melbourne to Singapore service, it makes it even easier for passengers who simply do not want to fly on the non-stop Perth to London flight, rather the Singapore to London leg with Qantas on board the larger A380. After that backstory, it's now finally time to discuss Perth. So Perth is on the west coast of Australia, quite a distance away from the east coast, which has the likes of Brisbane, the Gold Coast, Sydney, Melbourne, Canberra, and the Sunshine Coast, all situated on it. To fly from Sydney to London non-stop is 16,983 kilometres of flying. Something interesting is the new 777X, specifically the Dash 8 variant, while having less capacity, can fly around 16,000 kilometres, just short of what the Sydney to London route is. So with the 787-9 being Qantas's only option at this stage, it was the logical choice to have Perth become a hub. The new Perth to London flights are reported to be doing well in sales as well. While not shocking, it is certainly surprising for me, especially as I mentioned that Perth is actually on the other side of Australia. While to some this may not be a big deal, this is a further 4-hour flight for most people. Thankfully, Qantas realised that and assessed the situation well. They announced that the new Perth to London flight would actually originate in Melbourne, and this is similar to what Emirates do with their triangular routes into Sydney and Brisbane, and how they all eventually link up in Auckland. This change in origin now allows Sydney travellers, Brisbane travellers, and Melbourne travellers to have a possibly easier journey. However, in modern times, more and more people want less stress when it comes to air travel. They want to get from point A to point B as soon as possible, and while it could be argued you'd get to London still faster if you went via Perth, it certainly wouldn't surprise me if more travellers opt for the likes of Abu Dhabi, Doha, and Dubai as stopover points. Also flying with the likes of Etihad, Qatar, and Emirates over Qantas. Thankfully, Emirates already could see the demand for this, and in a few months will replace their 3rd daily flight into Melbourne from a 777 to an A380. And I haven't even mentioned the possibilities of going with Cathay Pacific, Malaysia Airlines, Royal Brunei, or even multiple carriers for a lower fare than what Qantas are offering. At the end of the day, it's simply down to convenience. While the London to Perth and Perth to London route will boom, I still feel some travellers may be inclined to switch over to Emirates or go through Sydney. Only time will tell though. Now on to my favourite part of this video, that is the expansion plans into Europe for Qantas. Currently Qantas only serves London as mentioned multiple times in the video, so there's room to expand, right? In my eyes, yes, of course there is. Of all the locations in the world, Europe is the place I want them to expand more into. While America seems like the logical choice and will most likely be the focus, I first want to explain my thoughts on Europe as a whole. If you were unaware, not only do we have a massive Australian community here in Australia, but we have a wide variety of other cultures. With our culture being so diverse, it has opened up new routes that we simply would never have seen before, like multiple routes with Air China, Sichuan Airlines, China Eastern, and a whole lot more. Obviously, one area that is lacking is Europe. In fact, it doesn't even have to be Qantas. I can be talking more widely and directing this at British Airways, Alitalia, Air France, KLM, and more. Melbourne has a large population of Greeks and Italians. We have a large Greek community, yet no direct service to Athens. We have a large Italian community, yet no service connecting us with anywhere in Italy. Passengers are simply forced to connect via Dubai or Asia for these destinations, with Emirates usually being the choice of many. In my eyes, a service to Rome and Athens would be fantastic. Whether or not these start up is another thing. But once again, it all goes back to my point. While Perth seems out of the way, it will rapidly become a major hub for Qantas and travellers from around the world. Perth has the opportunity to finally better connect us with the likes of Africa, the Middle East, Europe, and more. It's now down to Qantas and whether or not these see these routes as a good option. With them eyeing the A350 ultra long range, the 777X, or more of the 787-9s, I quietly pray we see these routes become finally a reality. This video was certainly a bit longer than my usual ones, so I understand if you didn't watch the end. I know a lot of you have been wanting to see these sort of longer videos where I explain more of my thoughts on a particular issue. This is something, as I mentioned at the start of the video, a bit different to when I analyse my airlines and airports. So if you have something similar to this sort of idea you want me to analyse, feel free to leave it in the comment section below and I add it to my list of video ideas because it kind of switches up what's on the channel as well. Feel free to drop a like on the video and also again state your thoughts on this. Do you believe Perth will become the perfect hub for Qantas? Do you think they'll need to order the 777-8X or 777-9X and so on? Thank you all so much for the support once again, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.